Hey guys, before we get into the real meat of the video, I just wanted to make a quick retail announcement. Anyone who was a first tenor, that's a weird way, basically the first 10 people who pre-ordered issue 2, as you know, you get a cameo in issue 3. I'm going to be sending an email out soon for anybody who did that, and you guys will be in the comic. All you have to do is send me a picture, and then I'm going to send that to Keith, and Keith is going to draw you in issue 3, which is awesome, and I'm super excited. That's all the updates we have now. So now on to the main bulk of the video. These are the top 5 comics that, personal favorites, as well as comics that made me want to make comics. And these are books that are very special to me. And so I wanted to do a top 5 for a couple reasons. One, as many of you know, I love the show iFanboy. They did a top 5. That was their first video episode. And so I thought, hey, top 5, that's a good round number. At the same time, after doing the 2 single issues, I wanted to talk about some graphic novels. And not only just these are graphic novels that support me, but graphic novels I think that if you haven't read, definitely check them out. For me, the first book that I thought of, and this is one that maybe I haven't read in quite a while, and I think I should go back and read it, but really the book that kind of really sprung me into at least the world of indie black and white comics, and that's Scott Pilgrim. And I'm holding up Scott Pilgrim Volume 4, which is Scott Pilgrim Get It Together. And this is actually the first volume that I read. This is my original black and white version, and then of course they came out with the colored version as well, which was just fantastic. But this was actually the first kind of indie comic that I got into. And Scott Pilgrim was very important to me. It kind of gave me a lot of my voice when I first started writing comics, which was basically trying to copy Brian Lee O'Malley. But later, developed my own voice. But, Scott Pilgrim was very important to me because it kind of showed that you didn't have to do straight superheroes. You could have more relationships involved in comics. You could do different things. It kind of introduced me to that manga style as well. And the reason I have Volume 4 versus Volume 1 is because, like I said, Volume 4 was the first one I read, and if you're like, well, why would you read Volume 4 and not Volume 1? Basically, the story went as I watched a iFanboy video where they talked about Scott Pilgrim. And I thought that just sounded like the coolest comic book in the world when they explained it. And I went out to my comic book store. They didn't have it. And then I went out to Barnes & Noble, and they had it. But they had Volume 4, which is the most recent volume they got out. I said, screw it, I'm going to buy it. I bought Volume 4, I read it, and the cool thing about it was I knew enough of the story that I could kind of jump into it and really just enjoy number 4 for what it was. And to this day, I will always say, if I have to choose one volume of Scott Pilgrim, it's Volume 4. It may not be the best volume, but to me, it's my personal favorite. It's the first one I read, and it does have a special place in my heart. I would definitely go out and recommend getting all of the Scott Pilgrim series. I believe they're all out in the big hardcover color editions. I don't know if they're still selling the black and white. I honestly don't. I'm sure you can find them though if you want to get those. I definitely recommend both. I personally love black and white. I think Brian Lee O'Malley does a great job, but he did a great job with coloring issues as well. I have the full set of black and white, of course. Even though I already had those, I had to get the full set of color as well. Looks great on the shelf. But yeah, if you're a fan of video games, especially if you're a fan of manga, or even just like relationship comics, movies like 500 Days of Summer, things like that, I would definitely recommend Scott Pilgrim. If you're in your early 20s trying to figure out what am I doing with my life, kind of like Mark in retail, Mark should definitely be reading Scott Pilgrim. It's a great book, highly recommend it, and one of my personal favorites. Now to go to the other side of the coin, I'm going to talk about 2 superhero books, which are probably my 2 favorites. For those who may not know, as much as I love the black and white relationship book, I'm still a superhero guy at heart. And I love the Justice League, I love the Avengers, and the 2 books now are basically my favorite Avengers and Justice League comics. And the first one, very prevalent right now, is the Infinity Gauntlet. The Infinity Gauntlet, written by Jim Starlin, art by George Perez, as well as Ron Lim, to me is the best Marvel story, in my opinion. I know Marvels is great. I know, the Vision, the last Vision run by Tom King was fantastic. Kraven's Last Hunt is a classic, but for me personally, I love the Infinity Gauntlet. Seeing all these classic characters going up against unbeatable odds, basically, and still fighting it, and also getting to see the expansive Marvel universe. Besides the Earth heroes, you go into the cosmic, and then you go into the even more cosmic Kirby inspired characters. You have Destiny, Galactus coming out, the big heavy hitters, and everyone going up against Thanos. And to me, this was kind of my introduction to a lot of these characters and why it really still resonates with me. It has one of my personal favorite Captain America moments where he basically stands up to Thanos even though he's gonna die. And to me, that's why I love these heroes. Is it's unbeatable odds, but they're still gonna go out there. They're still gonna fight. They're still gonna try to save the day, even though they're pretty sure they're not. They're not gonna make it. It's an 80s comic, so definitely I would say take that into account when you're reading it. I'm sure a lot of people have read it who are watching Infinity War now, and it's different. Though spoilers, if you haven't seen Infinity War yet, the thing that happens at the end of Infinity War, I was like, as much as everyone was kind of shocked by that, I was like, yeah, that's what happens in the book. So if you read that, that actually kind of happens early on in the graphic novel. But I still think it's an incredible graphic novel. I think it's a great look at a different time. And one of the cool things about looking at these older books is you kind of go into a time capsule. I read this and I'm transported back to early 90s. It's more of 80s, late 80s, early 90s, not kind of the Image stuff yet, but that 80s style of writing and drawing comics. And it's to me, it's really cool. And it's really always fun to go back to this and kind of have a little bit of nostalgia, even seeing some of the old costumes and things like that. Like I'm looking at this and I'm seeing Wolverine, of course, in the classic kind of burnt orange and brown costume, and Cyclops with the blue costume with the big X, and it's white and blue, and he's got a big X in the middle, and I don't know, it's always fun for me to go back and kind of relive this and kind of have that nostalgic moment, and I really do love this book. It's probably my favorite Marvel graphic novel that they've ever done. Next, on the other side of the street, or what used to be the other side of the street, not so much anymore, but anyway, next is my favorite Justice League story. And if you know me, you know what the answer is. But it's Justice League, and there's no title, so you can't tell. But if you know this book, you know by the incredible artwork that this is Justice League New Frontier. This, to me, is the quintessential Justice League story. I love the Justice League. I love the Silver Age. I love that time in comics. And this is such a love letter to it. It was such a silly, wacky time in comics, but it was also a very important time. And this is a real love letter that Darwyn Cooke does. Not only in the style of the writing, basically doing kind of something with Silver Age vibes, but written in a modern way. But at the same time, Darwyn Cooke's art is such a throwback. It's so cartoony, but it's just amazing. And honestly, this is one of my favorite graphic novels of all time. This is the big, it wasn't like an absolute edition, but it was basically a special hardcover edition they did that was oversized, and I absolutely adore it. If you can get it in this version, I would highly recommend it. Darwyn Cooke's art is fantastic and deserves to be blown up. Not blown up, but bigger. Darwyn has recently passed away, and it was one of those creators that really hit home with me. I've never met him, but he was someone that was always very special to me, and someone that if he was drawing a book, I read that book. No matter what it was, I read that book because his art was that good and his writing was that good. He made, in my opinion, the best Justice League story I've ever read. Taking the core of these characters, being able to modernize it, but at the same time still have it be a throwback story, to me it was just perfect. And again, this is a book that you can read for the writing, but this is also a book that you can read for the art and just look at it and just look at how he draws the characters, and it's perfect. If you're a Justice League fan, I'd highly recommend this. They also did an anime version, which is also very, very good. I don't want to go on a tangent with it, but one of the reasons why I'm not as into the new DC, and they're trying to change this around, the new DC cinematic universes, to me, DC is light. DC is Silver Age, and that's why I love this book. When they try to make them too dark, it's not really for me. If you love it, awesome, more power to you. But to me, this is the quintessential Justice League story. Definitely, if you're a superhero fan and you haven't read New Frontier, go out to your comic book store and change that. The final two, which are books that have that in a lot of ways made me want to make comics. And I'm not saying that these didn't, and they did, and they increased my fandom, and they taught me about storytelling. Number one thing I tell for new writers for comic books, besides just keep writing and just put something out, make a damn comic, is keep reading, keep reading more graphic novels and different, even things that are different from what you're doing. They can show you different things that you can do, different tricks that you have, writing techniques, panel techniques, different things that you can do. So read as much as you can from prose, and especially comics, because that's what you want to make. I've used tricks in retail that I've gotten from Spider-Man and different stuff. So these books, may not have been like, this is what makes me want to make comics. It definitely helped in my journey. Like I said, I basically wanted to be Brian Lee O'Malley when I started. Now, of course, I want to be Stephen Petrovelli. But these are the two books that really kind of hit it home for me. The first is a book called Blankets. And at the first Creator After Con, which the OG was about 6 to 7 people, less than 10, I know. We met up at a pizza shop, and we all ran around the table and said, what book made us want to make comics? And I said Blankets. And Blankets really is, Blankets by Craig Thompson, is to me a perfect graphic novel when it comes to story, when it comes to art, when it comes to, what it's telling. Blankets is basically the story of first love, a boy who's raised in a very religious household, going to church camp, and him dealing with, his first love, and, there's him also struggling with his religion at the same time with that. And to me, I just honestly, I love this book. From the artwork to the story to the pureness of showing what it's like to be 16, 17, and in love, and yeah, it may not be the most rock solid form of love, but I think he shows a real purity to it, and I really love it, and it's really well written. And this is one of those books that I feel you can give to anybody, and they'll get something out of it. And the artwork, again, Craig Thompson is honestly one of the great cartoonists right now. And I honestly, I adore this book. And I think anytime you go into a group of comic creators and they're talking about books and you read Blankets, you're going to see a lot of people be like, oh yeah, Blankets. It means a lot. And what other people are into, there's a lot of people that, you bring this book up and it's very special. I recommend this book to anybody. If you are anyone and you love comics, pick up Blankets. You can always get it. It's usually always in print. It's usually always available at comic book stores. If you haven't read Blankets, you need to read Blankets. And finally, the book that, if you've paid attention to any of my videos, you probably knew was on the way. The final book, Box Office Poison. I want to do a full video on Alex Robinson. He's a creator who really not only made me want to make comics, but also has, inspired me when it comes to the voice of the characters, as well as the different type of characters that I want to write about, as well as the idea that, characters can have flaws. And the main character, Sherman, in Box Office Poison, he's in his late 20s, he's trying to figure out ways to do, a lot like Mark. But it's a very different book. But at the same time, it shows the mistakes, it shows the scrapes and the scruffs. And that's kind of what I like about it. Sherman does some dickish things, and people do that. That's how life is. And that's why I really love Box Office Poison. To me, it's a very real take on people's lives. It's extremely well written. It's set in the early 90s, or mid 90s. Sorry, I should know this. Yeah, I think in the 90s. Let's just say in the 90s. But it still reads well today to me. Will always be my favorite graphic novel. I don't think anything's going to top that. To me, when it comes to creating comic books like this, I hope to one day be in the same breath. One of the best compliments someone gave me once was, I got a message on Facebook basically saying, "Oh, I read Retail, I really liked it. It really has a box office Poison feel." And I don't want to copy what Alex did, and I really don't think I can. But to me, what I'm trying to go after is a very real take on people in your early 20s. Not something romanticized. As much as I love Scott Pilgrim and 500 Days of Summer was a movie that I used to really like, it's a very romanticized look at things. I like to look at things a little more real without getting too pessimistic. There's always a little thread of optimism. I think you get that with Box Office Poison. I adore this book. It's will always be on my shelf. It's always something that's going to be very important to me. And Alex doesn't do a lot of appearances, but I hope one day to be able to meet him and just shake his hand. But yeah, I didn't really talk much about the book. Again, it's very much a slice of life story, and I would just say if you're a fan of that genre, if you like Retail, if you're watching this right now and you haven't read Box of Poison, definitely pick it up. It's a great. You can get it in this big, thick phone book size. This is I think the original pressing, but they've done different ones since then. It's always it's always in reprints, so you can always get it. And it is absolutely fantastic. Thank you guys for watching this video of me talking about my top 5 favorite graphic novels, including my favorites as well as ones that made me want to make comics. I really hope you guys enjoyed it, and if you any of these books sound interesting, go to your comic book store, pick them up, and while you're there, tell your comic book store that no. Okay. Go to your local comic book store and pick them up. It'll be fantastic. You'll have a great time. I literally got through this whole thing. Now, let me just do this. Just breathe. So those are my top 5 favorite graphic novels, as well as, the comics that made me. So those are my top 5 favorite graphic novels, as well as graphic novels that made me want to make comics. So those are my top 5 favorite graphic novels that inspired me to make comics. And if you liked any of them, definitely go to your local comic book store. I'll put links into all of them underneath to their Amazon pages, so you guys can pick them up there. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Like I said, I want to try to do more. I saw that it's been a month since I posted the last one, which was crazy to me because it doesn't feel like a month. Summer's gone by way too quickly. But anyway, I'm going to try to do more of these. I really hope you guys enjoyed this, and we'll talk soon. Bye-bye. Bye, guys.